Why are some countries still dictatorships in the 21st century and some countries aren't? Honestly, it's a very good question, and I really don't have a clue. But what I can do is show you what some of the world's strangest, most under-the-radar autocracies actually look like, and the warped realities their people live under in 2025. Starting off with this bad boy, Eritrea. In the 1990s, US President Bill Clinton called Isaias Afwerki, the new president of the country, a Renaissance African leader. And today in 2025, that same man rules what many call Africa's Hermit Kingdom. Since taking power in 1993, Afwerki has built a nation where time seems to have stopped. There's no private media, no genuine elections, and a constitution that's been in the making for nearly 3 decades. In 2024, Eritrea ranked dead last in the world for press freedom, worse than even North Korea. But censorship is just the surface. Every citizen is forced into indefinite national service, meaning people can spend their entire adult lives working for the state for about $30 USD a month. The justification? Long-standing tensions with Ethiopia. But even after the border conflict ended with Ethiopia, the system was never repealed. Afwerki's regime controls nearly every aspect of life, from religion to travel, while the rest of the world peers in through cracks, never quite sure what's happening inside. And there may be a reason for Afwerki's terror. He trained in China during the Cultural Revolution, where he admired Mao Zedong and studied political control firsthand. Ironically, he reportedly despises Xi Jinping though. A leaked 2008 US diplomatic cable even described him as hyper-paranoid and that the Ethiopian PM was trying to have him assassinated. And yeah, look, maybe. The result is a country that isn't officially at war but lives as if it's under a permanent siege. A militarized ghost state led by a man who still smiles on state TV, convinced he's running a utopia. At number 2, we have Turkmenistan. Honestly, if dictatorships had rankings for being straight up weird, Turkmenistan would be taking the dub 9 times out of 10. Its capital, Ashgabat, is a gleaming ghost city, covered entirely in white marble, filled with golden statues and almost completely deserted. It looks like a futuristic Las Vegas built for no one. And if Las Vegas had even less soul and a bit more repression. It all started with Supermurat Niyazov, the self-declared Turkmenbashi, or the father of all Turkmen. He renamed months after his own family, banned lip-syncing, and even outlawed young men from growing beards. In Turkmenistan, you've got to be at least 70 years old to have facial hair. Anything younger is illegal. But Niyazov's true obsession was his book, the Runama, a bizarre mix of autobiography, moral lessons, and national mythology. It was mandatory reading in schools, universities, and government offices. Job applicants even were tested on it at interviews. Every local bookstore and government building had to display it, and citizens were ordered to recite it daily. It wasn't just a book, it was a state religion. When Niyazov died, his successor Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedow, a dentist turned dictator, kept the eccentric spirit alive, racing cars down empty highways, performing songs on TV about horses and his mother, and erecting yet even more golden statues. Today, his son Serdar continues the family dynasty with the same surreal flair. And here's the kicker, despite all of this, the UN actually lists Turkmenistan as the world's only permanent neutral country. So Switzerland better watch out because it's got some strong competition coming in hot. Next, at number 3, we have Belarus. Belarus's current leader, Alexander Lukashenko, has ruled the country since 1994, longer than many of his own citizens have been alive. He's often called Europe's last dictator, though I'm not entirely sure about that. Maybe there's another one still clinging on somewhere. Lukashenko runs Belarus like it's still the Soviet Union. Parades, secret police, and bizarre TV stunts like playing ice hockey in full uniform, sweating patriotism. He once promised Belarus would have order and not chaos, and to be fair, he's kept that promise by jailing opponents, silencing journalists, and faking elections so blatantly that even Russia sometimes cringes. And those election results, they just get better every time. In 2006, 2010, and 2015, Lukashenko kept on receiving around 80% of the vote. Talk about being so steadily popular. It's truly inspirational. When COVID-19 hit, Lukashenko took a different approach from, well, everyone, I guess. He told Belarusians to drink vodka, wash their hands with it, and take saunas, because apparently viruses can't survive good steam. And, in that same year, after claiming yet another landslide victory in an election, protests erupted nationwide, which is a bit weird because he won with 80% of the vote again. Lukashenko responded by storming onto the streets in body armor, clutching an assault rifle like a Soviet Rambo defending his empire. Like, genuinely, the guy did this. I'd say out of all the dictators on this list, Lukashenko gives off the most main character syndrome and possibly just the most cringe. Next, at number 4, is Nicaragua. Honestly, when you think of the most autocratic regime in North America, Nicaragua might not come to mind at first. Maybe Cuba does instead. But Nicaragua over the years has really been pressing Cuba for the top spot, and now it's debatable as to which one is worse. Nicaragua's dictator, Daniel Ortega, has ruled this small Central American country for a long time. As of this year, he's ruled the country for 29 years total, on and off since 1979. Now you might be thinking, oh, he can't be that bad then because he's just been re-elected a few times. Well, wrong. He's changed the constitution every time his term is about to expire so that he and his wife can keep on running the country indefinitely. That's right. He rules the country with his wife, Rosario Murillo or Lacheo. She goes on TV almost every day talking about divine energy and positive vibrations while the regime arrests priests, bans protests, and shuts down charities for destabilizing the country. Ortega doesn't like anyone interfering in his country's affairs. He doesn't just silence opposition, he erases it. Not in a Stalin-style gulag way, but through exile, imprisonment, and fear. In 2021, he jailed or banished nearly every rival candidate before the election, then somehow won with 75% of the vote. And just to drive the point home, he later stripped hundreds of political opponents of their citizenship, erasing them from Nicaragua entirely and deporting them, calling them traitors to the motherland. Not like they really had a choice, but anyway, Ortega also doesn't like the influence of the church in the country. His regime has raided convents, seized Catholic schools, and banned processions, because apparently prayer is now a subversive act. Ortega once said Nicaragua was free and at peace. And maybe it is if you define peace as everyone being too scared to speak, or they're just really big fans of Ortega himself. It's up for you to decide. And at number 5, we have Venezuela. Venezuela is an autocracy in slow motion, getting worse with every passing year. Since Hugo Chávez's death, Venezuela has sunk deeper into authoritarianism, trading his fading personality cult for a decade of economic collapse, corruption, and repression under Nicolas Maduro. Once Latin America's richest nation, Venezuela has become a case study in how a democracy unravels, sliding steadily into chaos. Maduro rose to power in 2013 following the death of Hugo Chávez, but where Chávez ruled with charisma, Maduro governed through fear and charade. The result? A surreal mix of attempted socialism, corruption, and collapse. While US sanctions have undoubtedly hurt the Venezuelan economy, they're far from the reason Venezuela is falling apart. Under Maduro's incompetence, the country has become virtually unlivable, plagued by violence, shortages, and lawlessness. The bolivar is worthless, inflation has soared into the millions of percent, and once prosperous cities now resemble borderline anarchy, with crime rampant and basic order collapsing. Yet, on state TV, Maduro still appears dancing salsa and blaming US sabotage as if denial itself was a national policy. Now, having said that though, in the middle of making this video, Trump did say that the CIA was involved in Venezuela with covert operations. But the link between Trump sending in CIA agents and the Venezuelans having food shortages for over 10 years is a bit of a stretch, so yeah, Maduro's still not really exonerated at all. Still, even if Trump's orange fingerprints are on parts of the story, that doesn't suddenly clear Maduro's record, and the numbers back that up. Transparency's International 2024 Corruption's Perception Index ranked Venezuela as the most corrupt country in the Americas, which says a lot given some of the competition. By May 2025, over 8 million Venezuelans had fled the country, one of the largest refugee crises in modern history. The economy has shrunk worse than the US during the Great Depression or Bosnia's GDP collapse after the 1995 war. US sanctions haven't helped, but they're far from the root cause. And to top it all off, Maduro was wanted by the US State Department, which has offered a $50 million bounty for his arrest on narcotics charges. Venezuela today is a dictatorship that feels like a parody of itself, where corruption is systemic, reality is flexible, and the revolution that once promised equality now survives on repression, propaganda, and literal salsa performances. If you enjoyed this video about autocrats that history has forgotten, and for the right reasons, why not check out this video on other dictators and their eventual downfall? And don't forget to sub. Later.